Yeah.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zorhan Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zorhan Mandami?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron. If you look at the per capita.
Hey, welcome into Courageous Media. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Happy Veterans Day for everybody who has served our country. Thank you for your service. Really appreciate you rolling up here. Me personally, I was in the Air Force. So if you were in one of the lesser services like the Marines or the Army, my sympathies. No, just little joke there. All of us go back and forth at the gym. We've got Navy, we've got Marines, we've got Army, we've got all of them. And so a little friendly rivalry never hurt anybody, but really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks for being here. I got some great stories for you today. We've got to dive into this because we've got breaking news on the ICE shooting that happened in Chicago on Saturday. If you don't know this, there were shots taken at ICE agents in Chicago, a drive-by shooting. People in the car, they drove past ICE agents. Shots were fired. Fortunately, thank God, nobody was injured from the ICE of the ICE agents. I don't even know if anybody was injured elsewhere. I don't think there was any collateral damage in this particular shooting. But the breaking news that we have is that they believe they've made an arrest. So I want to dive into this story just a little bit. There was Trump talking about Mandami because this is going to have major ramifications for New York City. New York City is already talking under Mandami about trying to oppose Trump's ICE operations. That's not going to go well. It's not going to go well for the people of New York, and it's not going to go well for those who oppose the ICE operations. We're going to dive into Tom Homan and his response, and then we're going to dive into the breaking news on this story, the fact that they have made an arrest, and you'll never guess what kind of person they arrested. Anyway, really appreciate everybody rolling up. Please smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and let's dive right in.
Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. Hard stop. I've been doing this since 1984. I've never seen a situation where I see it today. New York City, how many times do you want to see NYPD attacked by illegal alien criminals in this city? Now a federal officer. How many citizens in this city have been attacked by illegal aliens in this city? You see the polls. Everybody agrees we should be arresting public safety threat illegal aliens, but you got a city council here that locked us out of Rikers Island. Are you kidding me? So an illegal alien in Rikers Island we can't talk to, we don't have access to. That makes the city unsafe. Every sanctuary city is unsafe. I'll say it again, sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. And I'm going to work very hard with Secretary Noem to keep President Trump's promise and his commitment several weeks ago that sanctuary cities are now our priority. We're going to flood the zone. You don't want to let us into jail to arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a jail. You want to release him into the street, which makes it unsafe for the community, makes it unsafe for the officer, makes it unsafe for the alien. Anything can happen on a street arrest. So what we're going to do, we'll have more agents in New York City to look for that bad guy. So sanctuary cities get exactly what they don't want, more agents in the community and more agents in the work site. If we can't arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a county jail, then we'll arrest him in the community and we'll arrest him in the jail. And when we arrest him in the community, if he's with others that are in the country illegally, they're coming too. Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. President Trump is not going to tolerate it. And I'll work every day with Secretary Noem to make sure we get as many bad guys, illegal aliens out of this country that we can.
Absolutely. Trump made a promise. Trump made a promise to the American people, not just to red state people, not just to Republicans, not just to people in the South. No, Trump made a promise to all of America that he would deport the criminal illegal aliens. And he is going to keep that promise. Tom Homan has said that over and over again. that they will keep that promise regardless of what happens in blue cities, regardless, in spite of what blue city mayors or blue city police chiefs or blue city protesters try to do. They will make America safe again. They will get rid of the criminal illegal aliens. In the meantime, you've got knuckleheads like Zoran Mondami, like the mayor of Chicago, who are actively trying to thwart ICE. Now, so far, the mayor of Chicago has not gone so far and done something egregiously stupid as to get arrested, though they have been arresting plenty of people in Chicago for impeding ICE. It just hasn't been the mayor. Now, once the mayor steps out and actually does something physically, I could see him getting arrested, and they should probably just figure out a way to do it. Because if he's inciting others to do it, I think he should probably get arrested too. But you've got Zoran Mondami basically saying that he is going to impede ICE. If that's the case, as Trump said, he needs to get arrested. But it's even worse than that. On the 3 days removed from people doing a drive-by shooting of ICE agents, thankfully no one was hit, but someone attempting murder of a federal agent in the conduct of their duty. You've got this knucklehead in New York, no doubt inspired by communist Zoran Mondami and his rhetoric. But this is what they're saying in New York. And this is why Tom Homan warned us. Tom Homan warned everybody that if this continues, there will be bloodshed. There will be ICE agents that get attacked. And when that happens, God forbid, there's going to be major retaliation. Talk about the National Guard. Talk about, I think Trump will send in the National Guard and possibly regular military to start thumping heads because they will not tolerate this. But check this out. This is absolutely egregious from someone in New York. Absolute Mondami supporter here. Here we go.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out. The state machinery, that's a full display right there, has to get wiped out.
Now, this person should absolutely 100% get arrested. That is a criminal threat against a federal agent. That is inciting violence against a federal agent. If this person has not been arrested, they need to be, and I hope they are. But it's because of people like this that we have shootings and drive-by shootings of ICE agents. It's because of people like this that we had the situation in Dallas where a sniper tried to take out ICE agents and thankfully only managed to take out criminal illegal aliens. But the latest on this ICE drive-by shooting in Chicago, they now have a suspect in custody, which is fantastic. Check this out. And you'll never guess what kind of person it is, or maybe you will.
A breaking update right now to a story that we've been reporting all afternoon. A suspect is now in custody in connection with Saturday's shooting targeting Border Patrol agents in this mess in Chicago. DHS says he is a criminal illegal alien from Mexico with a prior felony. Senior correspondent Mike Tobin joins us live from Chicago with the breaking news on this. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Martha, that is the breaking development that Border Patrol agents, or federal agents, I should say, now have a suspect in custody for firing at Border Patrol agents on Saturday. The video we have is after the shots were fired. People mobbed to the scene. Chicago police showed up to control the scene. But DHS says Saturday morning, Border Patrol agents were operating in the predominantly Hispanic Little Village neighborhood when a man drove up in a Jeep, opened fire, and drove away. No one was shot, but investigators collected shell casings and video from the scene. There was a joint investigation of the FBI, ATF, and Chicago police. That suspect is from Mexico and, again, in custody.
They've got a suspect in.
Wow. So now we know that they've got a suspect in custody. They have found the person who took the shots. And lo and behold, shocker, they're a criminal illegal alien who should never have been in this country in the first place. All right, let's keep going.
In custody, an illegal alien that has a past conviction for firearms, a past felony conviction for firearms. This suspect's in custody, and they're pursuing leads based on this suspect. It appears he was in the Jeep, and he was armed.
Now, over the weekend, DHS also released pictures of federal vehicles that were damaged. The agency says at least 4 cars were rammed while operating over the weekend. They were also boxed in and pelted with everything from bricks to paint cans. On top of that, an alert went out to Border Patrol warning them that the leadership of the street gang, Latin Kings, has put out a directive to shoot on sight immigration officers and federal agents operating in Chicago as part of Operation Midway Blitz.
So ICE merely needs to take the opposite stance. They need to be ready to use lethal force against anybody. Frankly, if you pen in ICE vehicles and start pelting them with rocks or paint cans, you should be subject to lethal force. That's my personal opinion. They should not tolerate this. Should not arrest those people. Now, if it's out in the open and it's something that can easily be done, but if they're penning in vehicles, if they are creating a hazardous situation, then I think I should absolutely use force up to and including lethal force, which is why there needs to be National Guard with the ICE agents. They need to make sure that these ICE agents are safe while they conduct their operations. And we need to ramp this up because there needs to be at least 10,000 deportations a day. We know that Biden let in somewhere between 10 and 20 million, even conservatively at 15 million. Over the 4 years of the Trump administration, we need to deport 4 million people a year. To get to 4 million people a year, you got to do 10,000 a day. We need 10,000 deportations a day to get rid of all the criminal illegal aliens. Basically, all the illegal aliens. If you are in this country illegally, you need to go. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate everybody rolling up. Please smash that like button, comment, subscribe. Let me know that you're here. Really appreciate everybody. All right, we got another story. This one about another. I don't know if she's illegal or not. I just do think she needs to be investigated because the rumor and there's some evidence that she actually married her brother in order to gain immigration status. But anyway, so we've got a story about Ilhan Omar that I want to get into because the fraud that seems to follow this woman around is now growing exponentially. Check out this story here. This is absolutely bombshell stuff.
horta aad iyo aad aan ugu faraxsanahay in maanta safari aan soo gaarnay safari in ay tahay meelaha sayti oo diyaarinayo cunto maalin kasto maalintii kaliyo safari waxay ay cunto siisaa 2300 oo ciyaal ah iyo familkooda taas waa mid muhiim ah sida aad u ogtihiin dhalinyaro badan gaajo ku nool wadankaneyti ama familkooda fursad u helin in quraac qada iyo casho ay siiso
So that was a restaurant, Safari, that Ilhan Omar filmed a commercial at. She knows and has been involved with some of the owners and people involved with this restaurant. The problem is that it's not just a restaurant that theoretically provided 2,300 meals a day to children. Oh, no. That was the misinformation that they fed you. In reality, it was far, far different. And that's the problem. That's the problem in this particular restaurant here. And that is because this restaurant was a source of fraud, massive COVID fraud that they are now then have been arresting. And we have the latest arrest in this massive COVID fraud. And we've got Jesse Waters on this very subject. But first, I wanted to give you a little bit of background as to what this is. So, a Lakeville man was sentenced Wednesday, so just last week, in federal court to 1 year probation for his involvement in the massive Feeding Our Future fraud investigation. Kadar Adan, who pled guilty in August to 1 count of theft of government property for allowing a fraudulent food distribution site to operate out of his Minneapolis business center, Jig Jig. All right, so he's basically only guilty of providing space for this to happen. He admitted accepting $1,000 in illegal illicit proceeds and was ordered to pay the same amount in restitution. Now, this is all part of the $250 million Feeding Our Future case, which was centered on a St. Anthony nonprofit here in, not here because I'm not there, in Minneapolis. Of the 75 people that have already been charged, 50 have pled guilty. Prosecutors say the defendant falsely claimed to have provided millions of meals to children during the COVID pandemic, instead diverting federal reimbursements to purchase luxury cars, real estate, other high-end goods, and even directing them overseas. And finally, directing those funds right into the campaign coffers of Ilhan Omar. Frankly, why Ilhan Omar has not been arrested in this particular case, I'm not sure, because it seems pretty likely that she was knee-deep in this thing, because fraud seems to follow her wherever she goes. Let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Again, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you like the content, please share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. But let's check out. Here's Jesse Waters on this feeding the hungry fraud case. Check this out.
We've known Tim Walz for less than a week, and we've already found out he let rioters burn down cities, lied about his military service, crushed small businesses, and turned Minnesota into a child sex change sanctuary. But that's not it. Tonight, we're dropping another Walz bombshell. As governor, Walz let a gang of politically connected Somali fraudsters steal $250 million of your money. It was the single biggest COVID scam in American history. During the pandemic, the government was just giving out money left and right. A nonprofit in Minnesota, Feeding Our Future, got $250 million to send food to needy kids. Sounds good, right? Here's the problem. Almost none of it was used for food. The Somali scammers blew our cash on real estate, cars, extravagant get trips. We have wire transfers that show thousands going to car dealerships. $160,000 went to some company in China, and $500,000 was sent to Kenya to buy an apartment. A $500,000 apartment in Kenya is probably a palace. But our tax dollars weren't just used on goodies. The politicians got a taste too. Ilhan Omar got thousands of dollars in donations from some of the scammers. These guys weren't criminal masterminds. It was sloppy. When they cooked the books, they made up names of their fake clients. They came up with these names. Are you ready? Unique Problem. Friday Donations. How'd nobody catch that? Well, early on, Walz's administration thought it looked a little suspicious, so they froze the funds. Then the Somalis sued and called Walz racist, so he kept letting them steal. They didn't bother to crack into the bank accounts or issue subpoenas. Walz just put his hands in the air and said, "I'm not racist. Take whatever you want." Minnesota has a huge Somali population. You can't get called racist and expect to win another election there. Walz even gave one of the fraudsters the Minnesota Outstanding Refugee Award. 3 years later, she was indicted. No thanks to Walz, the feds came in after he ignored the problem for years. During the trial, the Somalis tracked down a juror and dropped off a Hallmark bag on their doorstep, filled with 120 G's, and a little note saying there's more to come if she acquits. This all happened under Walz's nose. He had every chance to stop it and failed. Just like he failed to protect his city during the riots, and just like he failed his...
And the other person who is now been implicated in this, maybe not in the actual fraud, but certainly she received taxpayer laundered money, is Ilhan Omar. There needs to be an investigation by the FBI, by the DOJ, not just into the 70 previous indictments, but there needs to be an investigation into what part, if any, Ilhan Omar played in this. What did she know? How did she know? Did she know prior? Because if she received illicit donations and knew about them, then she is part of the fraud. She is part of the conspiracy. That's what needs to happen, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. But this goes deeper than just this one $250 million scheme, this $250 million. It gets even bigger. Check this out from Cat Turd, a great follow on X if you're not already. But this goes up by a factor of 40 when you're talking about the total COVID fraud, especially that went overseas. Check this out.
We have an internal threat, but you also mentioned transnational fraud rings, terrorist organizations, nation states, North Korea, nuclear weapons programs funded by our tax dollars, China, Nigeria, Iran, Romania, Russia, not our friends necessarily that are being funded by taxpayer dollars. Could you give us some examples of how this is happening?
Yeah. So when you think about what happened during the pandemic, $1 trillion was stolen. 70% of that money went overseas. And I can give you some examples. In a Western state, they had more people applying for unemployment insurance benefits than they had individuals over 18. The people that were stealing the money from Romania were using it to facilitate other fraud schemes that include fentanyl, that include doing things to impact our democracy. On the insider threat, right, the first thing you have to say, and my dad was a public servant, is 99% of people that work in the public sector are honest, hardworking individuals. But there are some, and what you need is data and technology to root that out. There were examples during the pandemic. There were some examples even of last week where people got into the Medicaid system in a Western state and stole $50 million in less than 4 months. So you have to have these controls in place, right? These aren't individuals stealing, Mr. Cloud. These are organized criminal groups, both domestic and transnational.
They are organized criminal groups that didn't just steal. Realize that this $1 trillion was allowed to flow out of the government overseas through a complex web of insider money laundering schemes and individuals. It's the same thing that has been happening with USAID. It's the same thing that's happening with the grift out of the Department of Education. It's the same thing that's happening with a whole segment of Pentagon funds. These inside fraudsters, these are all inside jobs. These fraudsters in the federal government, these bureaucrats figure out how they can account for money, how they can get money that is basically appropriated by Congress to a department, get that department head or sub-department head, whoever has control of that money, to then be able to issue that money to NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Those NGOs then get set up. It's not like they're going and finding an NGO that's been around for 35 years. No. They get the money allocated. Then they go to their friends and say, hey, set up an NGO. Their friends set up an NGO. The money gets issued to the NGO. The NGO takes a cut. They give it to a different NGO. It goes down this daisy chain of NGOs, where now we find out that there are both Democrat and Republican politicians that sit on the boards of these things that get money from the NGOs. And then when it's all said and done, that money gets put back in as campaign contributions to them and other politicians. Realize that Act Blue, the organization Act Blue, the fundraising organization, they're now under investigation for essentially knowingly accepting millions and millions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money laundered through multiple NGOs and then put into foreign credit cards. And those foreign credit cards were then used to make donations, which again, it's not just illegal that it's money laundering, but it's illegal that it's a foreign donation to your campaign. This is the thing that's been going on for decades now. And it's what Trump now has really 3 years remaining to 100% shut down. Personally, I think we should shut down all aid going overseas unless it is specifically voted on by Congress. There will no longer be foreign aid that is attached to the State Department or any other U.S. department. If we are to send $1 single overseas in foreign aid, it needs to be voted on specifically as its own funding measure by Congress. Do we want to fund X number of dollars for X purpose in X country? And you got to vote. Every single time there has to be a vote of the House and the Senate. If you want to bundle a few of them together, but again, they have to be individual funding bills. They have to be allocated funds. Those funds can't be used for anything else. They can't be redirected. And it has to be on at maximum yearly basis. In other words, we'll give it to you for a year or maybe less, maybe 6 months, but whatever term, maximum a year, it has to be voted on every single time. It has to be renewed. Oh, we don't want to renew this anymore? Sorry, the money's not going overseas. We need to stop sending money overseas. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, really appreciate everybody rolling up. Got one more story for you today. And this is almost a laugher, if you ask me, because we've got good old Mondami. Zoran Mondami, who's now been elected as the communist mayor of New York, and he has promised all sorts of stuff. He has promised free buses, free subways. He's promised state-run grocery stores. He has promised to tax the rich. He's promised to defund the police. He's promised to do so much stuff. The only problem is, most of it he can't do. Check this out. This is awesome. You're going to love this.
New York City Mayor Mondami, who's going to be taking office in January, proposal of a free bus transit has been shut down. New York City Governor Kathy has blocked Mondami's proposal for the free bus service. She basically said she could not endorse a plan that will cut revenues from a system that relies on bus fare. Now, the crazy thing about this is, you best believe Mondami already knew this. You don't think his camp knew this? Oh God. He fed you all a bunch of baloney, liberals. You know he can't do that. This man won mayor and he think he's Moses, the head homie in charge, huh? The thing about this is most of the things that he was offering are things that if you did a little research and investigate, you would realize that he is incapable of doing these things. But no. You know liberals, boy, whatever they hear that sounds good to them in their feelings, they gonna go with it, which is why I don't even blame Mondami. He played the system. He capitalized off of stupid people. This is America, and one thing America has is a whole bunch of sheeps, like liberals. Follow a person in the abyss if that person sounded good.
So this guy cracks me up because he's absolutely 100% correct. Mondami has promised all sorts of free stuff, all sorts of tax the rich stuff. And he can't deliver. He is not allowed. We've got a clip from Kathy Hochul where she basically shuts down his free buses, free subways situation. And we're going to get into that. But realize that much of his agenda that he fed to liberal nutcases and to college students in New York, he does not have the authority or the power to do. That person was exactly right. Check out Kathy Hochul on Mondami's plan for free subways and free buses. And then we'll get into the rest of it.
I cannot set forth a plan right now that takes money out of a system that relies on the fares of the buses and the subways. But can we find a path to make it more affordable for people who need help? Of course we can. And
what about child care, though?
Child care, I already committed to. I cannot set forth.
So she's basically said, nope, Mondami, you cannot have free subways and free buses. Not going to happen. And furthermore, Mondami does not have the power to tax the rich. He cannot levy. I'm finding this out. I thought he could at least raise the New York City tax, but now come to find out that according to the state constitution of New York, no tax can be levied other than by the state legislature. So Mondami doesn't even have the ability to raise taxes on New York City residents. He cannot. He has to go to the state legislature. And Hochul's already signaled that that's not going to happen, that they are not going to further raise the taxes on the rich. Even so, even now knowing that Mondami cannot implement most of his radical tax the rich, free stuff agenda, you still have a mass exodus going on from New York as businesses and the upwardly mobile, the wealthy, Anybody who can get out is leaving in droves. They're talking about $100 million in investment in Florida real estate. Florida real estate is off the charts right now. They've got warnings from real estate agents saying the prices are going to skyrocket. You've got people heading south to Florida, heading south to Texas, and heading north to New Hampshire even. Anything to get out of New York City. You're probably going to see a big real estate boom also in places like Westchester and the border bedroom communities to New York City, because people are not going to hang out in the city. Why? Because even though he can't tax the rich and make everything free, what Zoran Mandami can do is he can appoint a ridiculous police commissioner who goes along with his idea to defund the police and put in a bunch of social workers. He can put people in power that try to impede ICE, which is going to create a fight with the federal government and might well get Mandami arrested if he goes down there and physically tries to impede them. This could get really ugly really fast. Now, and here's Hakeem Jeffries. Even Hakeem Jeffries is admitting the quiet part out loud that Mandami can't do this stuff. Check this out. So if you're a Mandami supporter, if you're a voter, you got played.
So frozen rent, free buses, universal child care. Do you believe that he can deliver on those promises very quickly, Leader Jeffries?
Well, he's going to have to work with the Rent Guidelines Board and probably more importantly with the governor of the state of New York and the state legislature in order to enact those proposals. But I do expect that the legislature, of course, and the governor are going to meet him in good faith, try to negotiate a path forward. But it's all centered around the notion of making New York City more affordable, which is, of course, what we have to do throughout America in a country that's far too expensive. This is the wealthiest country in the history.
So basically what he says is, no. He can't do any of that stuff unilaterally. He's got to work with the state legislature. He's got to work with various boards that are already set up. He's got to work with Kathy Hochul. And Kathy Hochul's already said, none of this is going to happen. She might be willing to try to meet him on a plan for childcare. But again, that's got to get money. That's got to get voted from the state legislature. So even Kathy Hochul cannot do that on her own. It's all got to come from the state legislature, according to the New York State Constitution. Now, again, we're talking about one-party rule in New York. It's very much like California. But they still have to find the money to pay for all this, and they're not going to get it. And they're not going to raise taxes more on New Yorkers. I don't think so, because that'll just create a mass exodus from the whole state. This thing is going to crash and burn. The Mandami mayoral tenure, I believe, is going to be an utter disaster. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with safety and security in New York, what they do in terms of trying to impede ICE, what they do in terms of trying to defund the police. Obviously, they're not going to do anything like Giuliani did with stop and frisk and the broken windows theory. None of that's going to happen. So crime will continue to skyrocket in New York. But we will see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for watching Courageous Media. Remember, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like the content, please share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Remember, God is good and He is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Until I catch you next time.